Hello, this is Jeff again, and I'm here with Dottie. Dottie, it's so nice to meet you.
Hello, Jeff. I've heard so many nice things about you.
Oh, I appreciate it. I've learned a whole lot doing interviews here, and I look forward to hearing your interview. 92 years old, and you look
Well,
wonderful.
in November.
In November.
Yeah.
That's right. We don't want to stay 92 yet.
I've been 92 and a half for quite a long time.
Right.
Now it's 3/4.
Right. So, well, anyway, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, everyone who might be watching this. My people have called me Dot. They've called me Dottie. Right now I'm Dottie, but my legal name is Dorothy Schmidt Krim, as you probably know. Anyhow, I will start where I began my life in Enid, Oklahoma. And when I was a few months old, my family, my parents and my older brother and sister moved me to 1101 North Grand. That was a north and south highway through Enid. Big deal. I lived in the same house until I graduated from high school, and then I went into nurses training, and then I met Jim. He was a blind date from one of the nurses I was working with. She knew him and introduced me, and we really were compatible with each other. We really enjoyed each other, and we married. I was in Chicago taking a graduate course, and he got a leave. He was in the Air Force. He was a pilot. This was after the war, and he came to Chicago on a leave, and we were married there. And then when I finished my course, we went to Sarasota. That's where his parents lived. Florida, of course, you know. And he was reassigned to MacDill Air Force Base. And while we were there, of course, they always had TDYs. He was TDY in Biloxi, Mississippi, Keesler Air Force Base, when Bill was born. We had it planned. We drove to Keesler, but then we sold the car there and flew back with the new baby back to our quarters at MacDill. We were there 4.5 years, and while we were there, Patricia Jane Krim was born. Well, you'll notice later that she changed her name to Catherine Elizabeth Ashley, okay? But that was really great for her. Anyhow, she was born at MacDill, and we were there 4.5 years, like I said. And then we were transferred to Barksdale Air Force Base in Bossier City, Louisiana. Well, that was quite a change for us. We had a good life there. We were there 10.5 years. Of course, Jim was gone 6 months TDY to England, 4.5 months to North Africa, and every which place. But we hung in Bossier City. Then, when we finished that, we were stationed at Castle Air Force Base in Atwater, California. That's where Kate and Bill were in high school, and they graduated there. Then Bill went off to college in Oklahoma, and Kate then graduated the next year from high school, and she married very soon, her high school sweetheart. And he joined the Army, and they were stationed in Germany. And Jim and I went over he took leave, and we went over and visited them and had a wonderful time visiting Europe and driving the kids around and whatnot. In the meantime, they had Kate had given birth to Michael Alston, their son. who was the cutest grandchild in the whole wide world until more came along. Let's see, what happened after that? Well, Jim reached, put in 27 years in the Air Force, and in the meantime, his father had died in Sarasota. Actually, he died in Europe. He was on a trip, but his mom was still in Sarasota. Anyhow, so when Jim retired, we went to Sarasota. That's where Grandma Krim lived, who was the sweetest mother-in-law anyone could ever want. And we built a house there, and that's where we lived for 27 years. Well, that was a great life because we were both retired. Well, I took a refresher course in nursing in California, and then when I went to Sarasota, I did work, well, I worked a while in California, and I worked a while then in Sarasota, but it got in the way of my hobby, so I had to quit working. I had sung all my life. I was born into a musical family, and we all sang and played instruments, and we would put together programs and take them to nursing homes and other places to entertain. There'd be solos, duets, trios. We three little girls would sing 3-part harmony. We were good. Anyhow, I played violin most of the times we performed, played a solo sometimes. I'd play an obbligato for my oldest sister, Rosalie. She'd sing the solo and I'd play the obbligato. And that was enjoyable for us. Very satisfying to do that service. Of course, our life was built around the church because Daddy was a musical director. He had his degree in music, and Mom was an accomplished pianist who played for everything that ever came up anywhere in town. And that was our background in music. Our house was filled with music. And our social life was in the church. In the service, we usually attended the base chapel because that was most convenient, and I was always in the choir all my life. And at the different bases, I was always in the Officers' Wives Club, and especially at Barksdale, I was in the Spotlighters, and it was made up of 12 of us, officers and wives. Some were couples and some weren't. And we put on shows in the Officers Club with the 2nd Air Force Band accompanying us. And we took our shows to other Air Force bases around. That was fun. And then in Sarasota, I joined Sweet Adelines. They don't stand around singing old songs. They do show tunes and whatnot. They are show choruses. Sing a cappella 4-part harmony, and their special arranged music. And I did that for 27 years. I was on the music staff and the administrative staff and on the state, board. We were divided in regions, and our region was the state of Florida. Anyhow, that was a lot of work. It was full-time. I guess I loved every minute of it because I kept doing it forever. And in quartets, and that was fun. So there'd be chorus rehearsal one night a week, and quartet rehearsal one night a week, and we'd sing out sometimes, several times a month, and it was a big, and a lot of work went into it because it's special harmony and has to be arranged in a special style. Sang show tunes, and we had costumes and had really strict rules coming from it's an international organization with choruses all over the world, and they compete against each other. But they must sing in English, and it's amazing to hear Orientals and French ladies singing New York, New York, just like we sing it. Anyhow, getting off of that, that was my life. That was my life. It was full time. I guess I enjoyed it. It had such wonderful memories of it, and the closeness when you sing in a quartet and are together that much. That was really the high point of my life, I think. And Jim was a scholar. He was always reading and studying and taking courses and doing volunteer work. He loved the arts. I know what I wanted to say. Jim went into the Air Force during the war, and he was a pilot. And in the war, and bomber pilot, he was in bombers the whole time. And then after the war, when we were in at MacDill, it was like B-29s there. It may have been a previous one, I don't know, but for sure it was B-29s. And then they went on to B-47s. No, next I guess was B-50. No, maybe 47 came next. It was a small airplane. It just had a small crew. And then the B-50 was kind of a bunglesome plane. It didn't last very long. And then into the B-29. And they were the big plane. He compared it to a football field. I can't remember how much of a football field it took up. And they air refueled. They would refuel, they'd have to be above 35,000 feet. And KC-137 would come along full of gas, and they had a boom, a long pipe that would come out. And Jim got so many little buttons because he held that B-29. No, B-52 I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about B-52. Okay, maybe B-29 refueled, I don't know. It was the B-52 was the last one. See, I didn't fly them, it's been 100 years, so I don't remember. Okay, it was the B-52 was the last one. They did advance sometimes they had letters like CD, and I think they have an H now. They're probably still flying them. Anyhow, they would refuel. They'd have to be over 35,000 feet, and the KC-137 would come along, and I guess it was the B-52 that put out the long pipe, and would have to set it into the gas tank of the KC-136, the tanker that was behind them, and have to hold steady and not disengage until they refueled, and then off they would go. That was really a skillful achievement. Anyhow, they had to keep practicing that, and then when we went to Gassel Air Force Base, he was an instructor pilot for the B-52s, and taught the young kids that were going to go over to Vietnam and fly. And so then that was before we retired, and then we went to Sarasota. Oh my, what happened after? So I stayed in Sarasota 27 years, and Jim was such an athlete. He ran in exercise. He was in his 70s. He had the heart of an athlete because he ran every day, did push-ups every day. If it was raining, he jumped ropes. If we were traveling, he put a towel on the floor and would do his push-ups. And the darn cancer got him.
Oh.
Exactly 20 years after his mother had died of cancer.
Oh.
And it took, so a lovely man, a wonderful man left this earth. But God, I call it God, some people call it fate, I met a wonderful man just kind of accidentally. And if he didn't just step in and fill in and give me another, I call it when Jim died, I said, oh, my life with Camelot is over. And Maurice came into my life, and my Camelot life just carried on. And 6 years ago, then he passed away. And so I was when we met, then we put our households together and we moved to Fort Lauderdale because he had a son who was a doctor there. And we had no family in Sarasota. So, and his wife had died recently also. So then we moved to Fort Lauderdale in a new condo, big condo on the water. It was a beautiful setup of community. And with I should have counted, there were over 50 clubs, things to do. And of course, then I was in the chorus and also in creative arts theater and in the musical theater, and took harmonica lessons. And well, they had a full gym and they had instructors there all the time. So it was just really a lovely place to live with the palm trees blowing. They're really going to blow in a few days, aren't they?
Yes, yes, they are.
And after I didn't want to leave there because I had so many friends and so many things to do. I was achieving a lot. I got good parts in the plays, and it was fun. Hard work. It was we had a professional director and choreographer, and they worked us, and they would yell and really be mean sometimes. And here were these old people being called names and being yelled at. It was incredible. But we stayed year after year. Anyhow, so there was the chorus I was singing with a couple times a month. Well, Tuesdays. The musical theater for about 9 months of the year would rehearse Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. And but then on Tuesday it'd be like 9 to 3. And then at 4 o'clock, for a while I was going to harmonica lessons because my son sent me a harmonica because I said, oh, a friend of mine is taking harmonica lessons here. And gee, if I had ever had a bucket list, I would have had that in my bucket list. The next thing I knew, the doorbell was ringing in. The delivery man my son had sent me a harmonica, so I had to take the lessons. It was fun. Anyhow, but I had to quit because it was too hard. On Tuesday would be at musical theater rehearsal, and then at 4 o'clock was harmonica on Tuesday, and at 7 o'clock was chorus rehearsal. So I had to give up something. I can still play a few songs. I did never have a chance to play my violin again. I'm jumping around.
How long were you in Florida?
What?
How long were you in Florida?
over 50 years of my life.
No, in Florida.
I have lived over 50 years in Florida.
Really?
4.5 years at MacDill when I was first married. And then after Jim retired, we lived in Sarasota 27 years.
Okay.
And he died, and then I moved to Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Well, Tamarack was the little city there beside Fort Lauderdale. Our mail said Fort Lauderdale. Of 21 years.
Okay.
But Maurice then died 6 years ago, so I was alone there for a while.
And you were married to Jim how long?
49 and a half years.
49 and a half years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how long were you married to Maurice?
15.
15?
We were together 15. Yeah.
Wow.
He kept the prim name, but didn't know if it worked. No, it's too complicated. I'd gone to so much trouble well, never mind.
Yeah.
It's, I get my family.
Well, how did you end up in North Carolina?
The clock was ticking. My too many more birthdays coming up, and in the meantime, I had no family there. Maurice's son was a brilliant doctor. He was a nephrologist, and he developed multiple sclerosis, and he died at 50, the age of 50. And so then, when Maurice died, I was there alone, and for family, and that's what you need when you get old.
Yeah.
So, and my daughter had lived here now 15 years.
Oh.
She moved here I left stories about them out, didn't I? They were a big part of my life. That's what I devoted my life to most of the years. She moved here 15 years ago from California. My son and Bill, Bill, the older son, the older child, we were living in California when they finished high school. He went to Oklahoma to college for a while, and then he finished up back in California. And he and his wife have a company called Alternatives. She's a therapist, does private therapy, and he too, they have a company, and they do, for like 20 years or so, they do groups, family problems,
Right.
alcoholism, and the whole thing that people get therapy for.
Right.
Bill now is semi-retired, but he still does sessions, and Joni's still going strong. She's a workaholic. Okay.
Yeah. What about your daughter? Is she still
Okay.
here? She's still here?
Yeah, so Kate and Ken, in their life, they were married in California when they were young, and he had finished, he was a drama arts major, and she got her teaching certificate, but she was a year behind him. So while he was waiting for her to get her degree, he started doing puppet shows. He made the puppets, he did the story and everything,
Right.
and he was really going gangbusters. And so she started teaching, and then she kind of helped him on the side. She made more money helping him than teaching school. So their whole life was in entertainment, and it was amazing. They traveled all over California for many years, doing shows. And they at one time a robot. Ken can just design anything. He can play any instrument, he picks it up. He's donating his time at different places now, doing the guitar, and he's with the group. Sometimes he does solos. And she's the brain, She's taking care of me now. She's a jump ahead of me. It's wonderful to have. Children are a blessing.
Oh, they are.
They are a blessing.
They are.
Mine have really been wonderful to me. And so she and Ken moved here from California 15 years ago. It would be another chapter if I told you why they moved here.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good that she's local.
What?
It's very good that she's local, and she.
Oh, that's why I moved here. She had been wanting me to move here, and I kept waiting. Well, I had to finish the show in March. I had a good part. So I couldn't come till after that. I can't sing with anything now. You can tell. It is a medical thing with my vocal cords.
Well, have you got any tapes from you singing?
these big plastic, I have 3 of them, or 4 of them.
Well, that's wonderful. That's good.
Don't have a tape recorder, you couldn't hardly buy them anymore.
Right.
They play on me.
Well, I remember reading your paper when you were little. Your mom and dad had a potato chip business.
Yes.
I want to hear about that.
Oh, it's fun to talk about that. Well, my dad it was in the 20s, and there wasn't such a thing as potato chips. It was introduced. People now don't realize that there were times when there wasn't deodorant.
Right.
There weren't electric shavers.
Right.
There were a lot of things, and people through the Depression were just getting by. If they had a potato, they'd boil it and eat it.
Right.
Anyhow, somewhere for a snack. It was a new product when someone came to Enid, Oklahoma, and sold my dad, a musician who, but you had to feed the kids,
Oh, yeah.
and he bought so he got into the business, and it was a family business. It was a small town, and people didn't know what it was only a summer business because people just took them on picnics. And then some of the people who had parties with alcohol, they would serve them and started serving them. And then eventually, he was in the business until he got cancer and died. A lot of people in my family have had cancer. There ended up being 5 of us kids, 4 girls and 1 boy, and he was a rascal. He is now 97 years old and living. He's just now gone into a nursing home.
Who's that?
My brother.
Your brother.
The boy.
Oh, okay.
Out of 4 girls.
Oh.
But he ruled the roost over us, let me tell you.
Was he older, or where did he
He
fall
was
behind?
he was the second one.
Second one, okay.
Yeah. Oh, Rosalie, my oldest sister, was just a sweetheart. Beautiful. And then there was Raymond. He was the rascal. And then there was me. I was the middle one.
Okay.
And then I had 2 little sisters,
Oh,
younger sisters. Wait a minute, where were we? Potato chips.
potato chips.
Okay. So I'll just tell about the potato chip factory where I lived at 1101, because they did start making them at another location before I was born. Okay. At 1101 North Grand Avenue, Enid, Oklahoma, Garfield County.
Which you said the house is still standing?
Yes, and it must be 100 years old. It's 70 years since I was there.
Right. That's amazing.
And everything else is flattened out. There's a used car lot next across the street and things like that. It was a beautiful neighborhood once upon a time,
Yes.
100 years ago.
Right.
Anyhow, there was a building behind our house that was the potato chip factory. And, well, I don't know if you want to hear how they were made and everything. We had a peeler. It was a round, it was a contraption. Inside it had a round turn bowl that was this big around, and it was made of like rocks or something. It was rough inside and it swirled around. You put water in the top, put a bucket full of, and they had to be white russet potatoes, and usually from Washington, okay, to make the best potato chips, because we had the best potato chips in the whole wide world.
So you didn't grow the potatoes?
Oh no, they wouldn't have made potato chips.
Oh.
They had to get the white russets like this, and that made the big nice flakes too. Okay, to peel them, put them in the peeler, put the hose, let the water run through it, and it washed out the skins. And we'd get yelled at if we left them in too long, because then it would take too much of the potato away and not just the skin. You'd open it and they'd come out and you'd put them in a bucket and then put them over for the slicer. And originally it was I guess it always was a head slicer, at least while I was there. But it was a commercial type thing.
Right.
And they went into big vats full of water. And when you sliced it, they dropped into a big tub, galvanized tub,
Right.
full of water. And then you put them in a second tub. and that washed all the starch. And when we emptied those tubs, there'd be an inch or an inch and a half of white, pure starch that we'd be throwing away. So there's no starch in potato chips. I don't know why they complain about them. And then we had to put them on a rack to dry, because you want them dry when you put them in the hot oil. And we had 2 big vats like this, about that high, and they were filled about that high with, my parents only used Mazola oil, pure corn oil. We got them in big round tubs, what do you call them? Anyhow. Barrels, that's a big word, I couldn't think of it. We had a pump, we'd pump out the oil to add when the oil got used up. And you just had to know when it was hot enough. You'd drop one flake in and it would be hot enough. And you couldn't get it too hot or you would really be in deep, deep trouble. Okay, we had to be really careful, just the exact temperature, but we didn't use a thermometer. We just knew it was morning, this I guess. Anyhow, so you'd put in, we knew what amount to put in, because we kids did that too when it could hardly reach over. And you'd stir them, had a big paddle, kind of like an oaring paddle, to keep them moving so it was all even. And when they were gold and brown, you had this scoop with wire thing. You'd scoop in and put them out, and then put them on a rack to drain. And the extra oil would all drain off. And then eventually they went on a big, long table. And our first jobs as little kids would be to close up the bags. Someone would have to stand there and scoop, weigh them. And you knew exactly when to put 2 ounces in the 2-ounce bag, and exactly how much to put in a 4-ounce bag. And then the next was an 8-ounce bag. And half a pound was 35 cents, as I remember. Oh. We had nickel bags and 10-cent bags. You paid $2 and $2.50 for something like that. Now they're not as good. No preservatives. My dad would pick them up. They only stayed in the store 2 days. Brought them back and replaced them with fresh.
Really?
Yes. They were good.
Oh, they must have been. Oh.
And poor people, well, we were poor too. But people would come like, you have any day-old chips? And we'd give them the crumbs too. They were the best. They were my favorite. They were more oily than the rest.
That's what made them good.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Well, that was, you mentioned the Depression. Do you remember the Depression? And were y'all, was it hard on your family, the Depression?
Well, I can remember coming out of it when March or when you buy. My mother was very frugal because it wasn't a fantastic income because of what it was. I can remember, but she was always careful. We had to really pinch, like when margarine came out, I'd have to sit there and put, it came white in a block if you were cheap. If you couldn't afford better. Well, margarine was a new thing that someone invented as a substitute. And we'd sit there, with kids, that'd be our job. And it hurt your hand, your little hand, with a fork. You'd have to mash up this hard white thing. And then you put the coloring in, and I didn't like it. I didn't like margarine. Anyhow, there were so many things I could talk about.
Well, so that was the Depression, and you went to school all through those years at that same location?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then tell me how you met Jim.
I graduated from I was a graduate nurse, and I was working in the same hospital. And one of the officers' wives, who was a nurse, her husband was stationed, in fact, on the same crew with Jim. And she said she had friends she'd like for me to meet, and we went on a double date. Okay. It was a blind date. Yeah.
And he called you back. I mean, Was it love at first sight, or?
No, as a matter of fact, I'm surprised he ever called me. He was only about 2 inches taller than I, and 2 or 4 inches higher, even not tall. And I walked out and I said, "Oh, I should go back in and get my saddle shoes." Can you believe that? You know how dumb people are when they're 16? No, I was 21.
Ooh.
Wasn't that awful?
Well, he must have really liked you,
Yeah,
because he did come back.
Yeah, we hit it off.
Good.
He was really nice, a gentleman.
Well,
One thing I want to talk about the B-52 crew.
yeah.
This is jumping. It's a crew of 6, and he was the commander, aircraft commander. And I would have dinner parties for the crew, and they all were married, so that was 12. And it made me feel so good. They were close. The guys were very compatible with each other. Not compatible, but compatible.
Right.
A P.
Yes.
So we had really some nice times together. I could set out. I cooked for them all and had a beautiful table. Those were the days, and now no one wants the stuff.
Well, you had a lot of responsibility. You had responsibility as the commander's wife, right? Kind of, sort of.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
'cause-
The Air Force wasn't like the Army, really. But yeah, just to be the first thing that the guys were told, or at least that's what Jim came home and said. Anyhow, anything the family does goes on the husband's record.
Oh.
You will be dressed properly when you go shopping, and you will have manners as you go shopping, and you will not do anything that would be a negative thing to a civilian. So we had to, it lists your values.
Did Jim fly during the war?
Yeah, he was in Germany. He flew
Wow.
over Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, and when Kate first married, did I say her husband was the Army, and she was in Germany?
Yes.
Well, Jim and I stayed in a guest house a few kilometers down from where she and her husband were living. And Herr Schneider, I'll never forget him. And I can't remember Frau somebody, it was a different name. Okay, in talking with Herr Schneider then, Jim mentioned I might have bombed your home. No, it was a friendly thing.
Good.
It was a friendly thing. And we'd sit down the bottom floor. They had cows, on the bottom floor, and the house was over it. But then the bar, they didn't call it a bar, whatever they called it, was downstairs also. But it would be like a garage here.
Okay,
But
yeah.
the cows stayed inside.
How about that?
And gave the butter a flavor too. At night we'd sit down there with the locals and drink beer, and Herr Schneider got out his violin one night, and so I guess I'd had some beers, and I took over. I asked if I could play his violin, so I was playing his violin pretty much too. And we took a trip from there, and Herr Schneider let us keep our room. He said, "Just leave your things here. You can have the room when you come back." And we studied German. Well, I came from German heritage, so I pretty much knew a lot of it. But Jim was an intelligent one, and he had studied. And so I'd say, "What's the word for?" And then I'd remember, and then I could talk. And so we'd been speaking German just the whole time, communicating that way.
Right.
And when we came back from our trip from Holland, we came back and we were sitting there, and one night Herr Schneider started talking English. And he sang, "Oh, gives me land, lots of plant Antistories. He had been a prisoner of war in England.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And so he had learned English. And he just thought it was so respectful of us to learn German and speaking German.
good.
And instead of them having to speak our language, and he hadn't revealed that he could understand our English.
Well, wow. So even him being a prisoner of war, it sounded like it was a really good trip, and he was really, there was no animosity at all.
Not a bit, not a bit. They were over it. They were over it.
Good.
They didn't like Hitler either.
Oh, okay. Interesting. That's a good story. So when Jim was in the war, how did y'all communicate back and forth?
Oh, I didn't know him.
Oh, you didn't know him?
No, it was after
So
the
you
war.
met after the
It
war.
was after the war that he was sent to Enid. A
Right.
bunch of them were, and they didn't know what they were going to do with the pilots.
Okay,
And that's why he got the leave to come to
I see.
Chicago, and then he re-enlisted.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so many other little stories, like things we did. He belonged to an air club. He did, we did, I didn't fly. He was checked out in a small aircraft also, just so he could fly a small airplane. We could go
Right.
on trips with a rental plane, and it was a club. And a couple of friends, I had a family in Arkansas, which is just over from Shreveport, Louisiana.
Right.
And so he said, hey, Uncle John's having a big family get-together in Arkansas. Why don't you guys, we're going to be there, why don't you guys fly over and spend the day with us? And we thought that'd be fun. So it was a Sunday morning we started out. And went down, got the plane, and the kids got, it was a little Cessna 170.
Uh-huh.
And the kids got in the back, and they were about 12 and 14, 12, 11 and 13, something like that, years old. And we got in, and the Aero Club was right on the Red River that goes through Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay, so we took off, and we'd flown with them different places before. And we took off, and we got over towards Arkansas, and it was just, those little planes just shake the teeth out of you.
Yeah.
And we were going along, and all the trees, it's forest like here going over to Arkansas, and all of a sudden everything was quiet, silent. Oh, it was so peaceful to have that noise and everything stopped. And then I realized, Jim knew, the engine had quit. And it's a single engine. It's a single engine plane. And he's calm as a cucumber, he was. Look out, see if you can see which way the wind is blowing. Well, there's nothing but trees. Oh, I do see some line down there. They're blowing. Oh no, it changed. I don't know what way they were blowing. And just trees. He said, look for an open place. So we're looking out there. My son's saying, I'm too young to die, I'm too young to die. We weren't really scared. It's really amazing. I mean, I wasn't, it was just, you do what you have to do. And so we finally saw a field. It was like the trees, if they cut out, it was flat land. But like they cut out this square. There were some cows there and some green things. We didn't know what the green things were. But he put this plane down within that, and the back, the wheel isn't any bigger than that in the back of it. And there was a plop. So he must have touched the leaf, but coming down, but he had to come that close. We got down there, and it was a contour plowed field. Those ruts were about that big. Man, we were going kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. And he was pulling back as hard as he could. And the cows went to the other side of the field. And we came to a stop. He said, get out, in case there was a fire or anything. And so we got out. Nothing around. So we walked to a fence, and there was a little country road. We've waited and waited. Finally, a farmer came along, and we flagged him down. He was so nice, and he took us to his house. Jim called the club, and they said, "Oh yeah, look under the hood." A thing had been connected with tape, the mixture lean. The mixture lean to start coasting, you know, we were up high enough, and then you just like put it on. They didn't call it coasted, but it was mixture lean. It was like if it was a throttle, and you change the throttle. Anyhow, Model A's and Model T's had a throttle. You didn't have to do it yourself.
Okay.
I drove one. It was my grandpa.
Really?
He had me drive. My mother nearly died when she found out on a country road. That's another story. Anyhow, so the farmer took Jim. We stayed at the farmer's house. He drove us back. Actually, the farmer drove us back to Shreveport to the club, and he drove Jim back to the airplane. Jim taped it back together and flew out of that place.
No.
I wasn't there. I mean, we were miles. We were a couple of miles down the road at the farmer's house. And he flew it out of there, and we got a different plane. We went to Uncle John's, and we had ice cream, and it was a big farm, and he had a little train that he had built that went on the track, and all the kids got in the train and went around. Then we flew out, but let me tell you, Jim circled 3 times before he landed at Uncle John's farm.
Wow. 30 years from now, if your relatives, your grandchildren or great-grandchildren are watching this, and and you had to give them some advice to make it through life, based on what you've learned, what kind of advice would you give them? What has worked for you?
I'm trying to think of a joke. I saw one with the man sitting on top of the mountain, and he said, darn, I can't remember what he said. You know, I'm sorry, I do not have any wisdom that would be appropriate for them in 30 years. This world changes so fast. And what's good for one generation doesn't apply to the next generation completely. Morals is at the top of the list.
There you go.
And I think religion
Yes.
should be at the top, and that's where we get our morals. It tells us how to live.
That's right.
And have faith. Have faith in God. That's all you need to live. And no matter what the other changes are, I think if you have that doesn't change.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, that's good. Hopefully they'll take that advice. I know that's worked for me, is and treating others, you know, just like I would like to be treated. And I always leave my glass half full, not half empty. And make lemonade out of lemons and stuff like that. Life is too short to hold grudges and look at negative things. And that's just me. You know.
My daughter does that better than anyone I know, and she got it from her dad. She's really good at that, and she reminds me.
Well, before we close, is there anything else you can think of? And you'll leave here thinking of 10 things if you're like everybody else that they should have wanted to share. But for right now, can you think of anything else that you'd like to share?
I just wanted to share that I'm so proud of my heritage, and I'm proud of my children. They are a blessing to me, and I couldn't have asked for nicer kids.
Well, they are very lucky to have you as a mom. And it's obvious, they have to be smart.
They are.
Because I see how smart you are.
Oh, they're smart.
Well,
They got it from their dad.
No, I don't know about that. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they got some of it from their dad, but I'm sure they got some of it from you too. Dottie, it's been a pleasure meeting you.
Well, it's been so But that, is it 10 o'clock yet?
It's getting close. No, no, it's not 10 o'clock yet, but